Hello and welcome to the Whole Being Healing podcast. I am Lisa Warner. I'm the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing and co-creator of Lisa and Maura's Magical Mystery School for Whole Being Healers with our signature Whole Being Healing course.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. And I'm Maura Leon S. I'm co-author with my husband Keith of The Seven Steps to Successful Relationships and lots of other fun book projects and other things since then. But really happy to now have co-created with Lisa the Mystery School and Whole Being Healing and just touching as many lives as we can and having beautiful connections. So thank you for that, Lisa. And we're very excited today to have a beautiful connection and beautiful chat with April Chavez, who has graciously accepted our invitation to come and be with us today. And we're so glad you're here, April.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
And Lisa's going to read your bio.
All right, so April Chavez is the founder and CEO of Driven Livin, host of the Wellness Driven Life show, and a performance coach, author, and transformational voice in the modern wellness space. A lupus survivor and former law enforcement officer, she brings exceptional depth, resilience, and clarity to conversations on healing, self-mastery, conscious growth, and human potential. Through her interviews with more than 300 influential leaders and her work developing Driven Livin's courses, community, and personal growth experiences, April has created a platform that helps people align the spiritual, intellectual, and physical dimensions of life. Alongside her husband, Manly Chavez, she also has co-authored a growing collection of inspirational books and journals, including The 7 Reasons to Hug Yourself, Fuel Your Ambition, and the Rising Young Adult Ecosystem, What If You Suck series. With a presence that is both grounded and expansive, April is known for turning profound insight into practical transformation and for guiding audiences toward a more intentional, empowered, and wellness-driven life. Welcome, April.
Thank you. It always sounds great listening to all of the things that we have created, accomplished, and just the wellness-driven ride, I like to call it. And so thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I really love the 7 reasons to hug yourself. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I always, self-love is such a huge, important thing that just seems like a nothing thing, but it's so huge. So thank you for writing that book. That's awesome. And yeah, so speaking of driven living and wellness driven life, our mission focuses on shifting from fear to love, activating our soul purpose, activating our ability to self-heal, and aligning with that soul purpose. And so we'd love to have you share whatever comes forward for you to share about your path, your journey up until now to the point you're at now in living your soul purpose, because you're definitely doing it to in a beautiful way. So yeah, we'd love to hear about that right now.
Thank you so much. Well, it's a pleasure to be here and to share that with you and your audience. And, our journey never ends. So, living up to that soul's purpose, soul's journey is a continuous evolution. And it's constantly changing and evolving as you do. And while as I feel that there is, certain pathways that we're supposed to absolutely go forward in, it likes to shift, or if you tend to fall off track, it likes to guide you back a little bit, and that's where that intuitive guidance comes along, right? And if we go back to that self-love, the 7 reasons to hug yourself, it is exactly about that. It's not the 7 reasons to hug someone else, which of course the service aspect of being alive and being human is extraordinarily profound and important, but it all starts first with us. And I think that's one of the most difficult journeys that we all take. And it usually comes up when life is hitting really hard. And we come to a point where we're like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I've done everything and I don't know how to move forward. What is it that I'm missing? It's always that spiritual shake up. And so oftentimes too, it's involving our relationships with other people. So if our relationships with other people outside of us aren't working, usually we'll be given some sort of messages where it's like, well, maybe we should start looking within. And how are we not loving ourselves first? I mean, some of the greatest relationship advice is to figure out how to do that self-love practice continuously until it feels like you actually love yourself. Right? And we are so hard on ourselves. We just beat ourselves up constantly. We have the loops of thoughts that are so negative and so self-harming. And that is a reflection of everything outside of us. So how could we possibly attract the people in our lives if we can't be kind to ourselves? And so along my own journey, a lot of the self-love didn't start happening, that reflection, until I was early 30s. I mean, it takes that long sometimes longer. Sometimes people never do the work. They never contemplate it. They never do self-reflection. And I hope that that is really what we, all of us here together today, are here to help share with the world because it's so important. And we know that when we start changing ourselves internally, that it reflects outside of us and it starts changing everyone else around us.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's so true. And in your bio, what stood out for me was about being a lupus survivor and
Yeah.
also the law enforcement. And those are both so interesting to me. So is there something about that? Um, like was that the start of your journey or, I want to hear some juicy story. If you're
Well, there's
willing.
a lot of juicy stories. So where can we begin? Well, it's fascinating because when we consider like our career journeys, right? I have worn so many hats. There is no traditional linear way that I have created in my life that is standard. Like I didn't go to school and get a degree in such and stay on that career path. It is all over the place but the beautiful thing about that is when you have had all of these experiences and you've lived long enough, you start to see the common threads. There's this golden thread that stretches across all of it that brings in the common denominalities. And how does that bridge into who you are now and how you show up and serve the world? And it's a really cool thing when you can start seeing that and you're like, wow, that makes me the perfect fit for this situation. That makes me the perfect fit for this position that you never even thought that it was never in your mind that you would be to that point or you would be serving in that capacity. And so my journey with an autoimmune disease started. It's a lifelong thing. So I wasn't diagnosed until the age of 15, but I had complications well before that. They just didn't find it yet. Nowadays, they do the extensive blood work. Like they have more technology. They find things a lot faster. But then it was just like this constant search. Like these things are happening to this child, and we don't really know. And is it thrombocytopenia? Is it child leukemia? Like what is it? What's going on? And so there was a lot of test and trial and error and challenges that were taking place. But that built up this massive resilience within me. And children are so beautiful and unique. If you look at children who are facing near death, they are so bold and so brave. I
Yeah.
mean, if people have dealt with children in cancer wards or so or what have you, the child is usually the most brave about it, and they're the ones who are suffering. And so there's this childlike determination too.
Right.
There's this acceptance piece, and there's also this, for me, was I don't accept this.
Right, because they
Um,
told you you weren't going to live long, right?
right.
And I'm
Yeah.
assuming because
So
that's what they usually do with that diagnosis, right?
yeah. My mom shared some information and she's since passed. We can maybe go into that soon. But my mom shared with me soon after I was like 32, I think, that things that the doctor shared with her. And
Mhm.
it was that, excuse me, I wouldn't ever have children. I did know that, which we'll talk about that in a second. But that I wouldn't live to see 30. And so, can you imagine as a parent holding on to that? And she didn't want to share that with me. And I'm glad that she didn't because we know how powerful the mind is. And so,
Yeah.
if I would have allowed that, accepted that, thought that that was my future, that like I wasn't, although I wonder too, how would I have chosen to live? Would it have been different?
Mhm.
But I also don't want that to make my reality because what we believe is what we invite into our reality. The mind is so powerful, and people die because they believe they're going to die. And so that really helped me along my journey. And it's fascinating how, people in the medical field can say one thing and it might not actually be the future for that person.
Mhm. Often, in my
Yeah.
experience, that happens quite often. And often it happens the other way, like you said, like someone receives a prognosis and then they just play it out because they believe it. And then their body says, oh, okay. At least
Yeah.
that's my way of seeing it.
Yeah. So that really played a role, that health journey played a role in how I chose to show up in the world. I was this sickly female who, wasn't really gonna amount to much physically in the world, and I wouldn't have it. I remember the first time that my mom, she was very supportive. She put me in a support group for lupus, and I was young, and I was the only young person there. Everybody else was old, and they all felt older, I should say. Now I might have a different perspective, but because I was young, I'm like, oh, they're also old, right? They they felt like their life was over. And
Mm.
I'm like, my life is just beginning. My life is beginning. Like this. So I went once and I'm like, Mom, not doing it. I can't do it. And, she gave me so much literature on the disease and I didn't want to read it because I'm like, I I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want anyone to think about it. And so
Right?
what a great gift I gave to myself because I have often lived my life that way. And now that I know what I know now about the power of the mind and what we tell ourselves and our belief systems, I'm just so glad that I went that direction because maybe I wouldn't be here if that weren't the case. And so I wanted to show up in the world powerfully. I wanted to prove to the world and to myself that I was stronger than that. I went into a male dominant field. And by the time I went into police academy, I had already had 3 children, which
Wow.
goes back to you can't have children as a sexually active 18-year-old girl.
Oh my.
Why am I using birth control then? So
Oh wow.
I I quit taking birth control, got pregnant, figured I'd miscarry or something, and I didn't. So that obviously changed the trajectory of my life. I
Wow.
wasn't expecting to have children. I didn't want children. I had my school career path lined out. I wanted to be a forensic entomologist, which kind of goes into that law enforcement sort of investigative, curiosity of what happens after we die or just that curiosity in that sort of field and investigative nature. And so when I had children, I didn't want to go to school so long. And so then I chose to go into law enforcement because the military wouldn't take me because of my health background. but law enforcement would. And I figured I could kind of go on that journey and that trajectory if I went into maybe detective work. And then if I chose to later, I could go back to school.
Wow.
Long journey.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love that you didn't read any of the information that your mom had given you,
Yeah.
deciding like I don't want this, like I don't want this part, because that was part of my journey as well with the whole, cancer thing. And it was just like
Yeah.
I have no interest in having cancer. Like I don't want this as part of my reality at all, which means I can't go the medical route because that's all part of having cancer. So I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had a similar thing with a thyroid diagnosis, also called autoimmune condition, which, when you really think about it, doesn't make any sense. They're like, oh, the body attacks itself. Well, why would the body do that? That doesn't make any sense. Like, maybe I could see, poisons attacking you or, people, but not the body. And so, yeah, it never made sense to me. And yeah, they wanted to do things that would have, changed my body basically for life. Although the way that we know now, like I love,
It can
your
be
story's so
reversed.
amazing already. Because yeah, just with the amount, even without, it doesn't sound like you even had a whole lot of sort of influence or information that was outside of what they were telling you, but from within you felt it, and you were just like, this is how I'm going to do it, and you were following that inner guidance like from a young age. That's so awesome.
Yeah. Super stubborn.
Mhm.
Really was what
Good.
it comes down to. And that can benefit us as humans in a lot of ways, right? And then there's also the life lessons continuously of honing that down a little bit, right? And meeting life a little more graciously and slowly, because it certainly does drive us when we have that internal, like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it for myself. I'm going to prove to the world. And that frustration, it serves us so well. And especially when we're young, because that's how so much of us feel when we're young. We're teenagers and we have this passion for life, and we see chaos in the world and we see injustices, and we're like, this isn't right, and I want to stand up for it. And so there was a lot of that drove me on my path. And then life, as always, continues to hit a little harder. I think the big lesson that I've learned with the disease that I have is that I started to notice a trend, a pattern, because every time that I had a flare up, it happened around times of life that were really upheavals. They were so stressful. They were traumatic. They were massive life moves and shifts. And about 6 months after, I would get really sick and I would get hospitalized, and my body was just like, I can't do this anymore. And it wants to shut down or it wants to get injured. So, that has always been the path. But when we look at our science nowadays and all of the information that we have, that is proven. The body, the stress that we create in our body eventually turns into illness. It's dis-ease. It is not at ease because you're constantly at this fight or flight, right? In easy terms, and it just can't manage that continuously. So eventually that starts to show up. It shows up in our body figure, our weight. Oftentimes you can tell when people are holding on to so much stress and pain and trauma. It shows up in the body that way. It'll show up through, again, disease, like any sort of cancer, or, it'll show up outwardly with your relationships. It just shows up. And then that's where we start to malfunction. But then oftentimes we'll hit the floor and we'll start to think more on that spiritual concept, which is really, really where I like to go the most. I talk about sip life slowly, which is, my lessons in life where I'm always letting to go head first, go, 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 go. And excuse me, which and also to the driven living, that drive, and also learning to slow down. And that's that meditation, that's that going within, that's being present. So spiritual, intellectual, physical, it's mind, body, spirit, just said differently. And I like how SIP likes to show up in life all the time.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll join you in that.
So uh, the spiritual piece comes first too. And so I love to talk about that the most. And like the guests that I have on the show, I want to know, how did you come to know that spiritual piece of yourself, or start thinking about it more, that there's more than just this physical rat race that I'm in? And what is that? And how do I tune into it?
Yes. Yeah, so I can see how the lupus diagnosis and um, effects on your life really uh kind of created that journey for you, really.
Yeah.
And then just again, your willingness to ask the bigger questions, your willingness to look at it as an opportunity rather than a punishment of some sort or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Not playing the victim.
Hmm.
And because the victim mentality, it does not hold yourself accountable. It doesn't take when you're being accountable for your life, it gives you the power to redirect. And if you let that go, you have no power, and you're left to, oh, whatever happens. But that's not reality. That's not true. We have all of the power to have the choice and make decisions and respond differently. And I believe that when we know that, when we're aware of that, then it absolutely is now your responsibility.
Yeah.
Responsibility, the ability to respond.
Yes.
Right? We've all been taught to respond by going, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And running off to look to somebody else for the answers. But the
Yeah.
answers are always inside us. And it's in that self-reflection where we start to notice, like, where am I off track? Where am I giving my power away? Where am I feeling not worthy? Where am I, looking in the wrong direction? When we start looking in the right direction, when we start looking inside and we start connecting to the divine beings of light that we truly are, we start to notice that life is meant to flow through us. We're not supposed to be doing life. Life does itself, life does its own thing. But when we're holding on, we stop the flow of life. And then
Yeah.
everything starts to shut down.
Yeah, I think it really often it starts with the relationship pieces too. You have a dependent relationship, a codependent relationship, but you want to make your way to that interdependent sort of aspect. And that's not holding on to and holding everybody else and everything else around you as the issue, or that is going to fix the problem. That so I think that that's where our brains, that's how we can find connection with understanding, that is that it is within relationships with self and others. And so I think Stephen Covey did a really great job with explaining that. And his book is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's probably where we got the name the 7 reasons to hug yourself. Stephen Covey, I'm a huge fan of, and I think that he did a really great job with explaining a lot of the things, early self development, self improvement mentality, right? And it went along with your personal business, all of those things. And he brought in some spiritual components too. So that's really learning how to do things externally, learning intellectual things and how to think and view things differently, the win-win situations and scenarios on how to do things that way. And then and I learned the spiritual piece mostly from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I was so excited the first time that I went to one of his events because I was like, I'm going to go learn how to meditate. And then, of course, when I get there, I learned that it's so much deeper and there's so much more to it. So that was a really fun journey for me.
Mm. Yeah, meditation. It's like an ever evolving, ever unfolding journey, right? Because it's different for each one of us. It's different at any time in our life. It's different in every moment. We're always evolving, and
Yeah.
um yeah, it's like it is funny because when we start out, it's like I want to do this right. I want to figure out how to do this. I want someone to tell me how to do this, and there's like no answer, and it's very frustrating. Right?
Yeah, well, it's a know thyself piece, right? I mean, you can get to know yourself intellectually and all of those things, right? And do the physical work, know thyself physically. But knowing thyself, when you go inside and you realize that there's the 99.9% of what we cannot see, I mean, that opens up this massive can of worms and this desire to be exploratory because the exploration never ends. It's always a journey. And I think that that is when you can start to see that,
Mm.
that's when life gets exciting because you're like, wow, I can continue exploring myself and exploring the world and the universe. And how, when we question things, then that gives us something that we want to live for. When we question things and we want to explore and we are curious, the curiosity piece is huge. And because then there's always something to learn and grow from. It's never ending.
And to teach and to, interact and
Yeah.
support with others. Like clearly, as you talk about your journey, the language you're using is not even about yourself hardly at all because you're clearly so focused on like, yeah, I'm doing these things in my life, but not just for me. It's because of my place in this world, right? It's because like I'm here to be an example. I mean, at least that's what I'm feeling from what you're saying. Like, I don't know if this has been reflected back to you before, but yeah, you clearly have the desire to expand consciousness with every word you say, you know?
Thank you. Actually, it's so funny that you say that because it is it has always been very challenging. I'm actually working on it right now. To maybe I should start practicing a little bit more here, but it is difficult to talk about myself and the things that I have done. It's not for my talk show, it's not the April Chavez show. It's the Wellness Driven Life show.
Yeah.
It's not even me on camera. It's not me as the expert. It is my guests, and it's about the guests. And I
Mm,
like to tend to hide behind my guests because I don't want it to be about me. I just want the message to be there. But why can I not give the message? But that's part of
mm.
my journey too. I'm here because I get to share more of myself. And you'll find too in excuse me, in the business world, if you're in an interview, they want to know about you. They want to know what you have done. How are you going to bring value to them? And it's not about what other people have done, or even it's not about what the team has done together, because they want to know how are you going
Yeah.
to be bringing value. So shifting that narrative for me has been an interesting journey. So, also, though, I think that it does bring hopefully some value to people when I am giving, you know, my experiences, and I like to call it stepping on giants because I learn so much from other people and their journeys and their experiences, and that's our lessons from leaders.
I love that. I love the transparency that you just displayed, April. Thank you for that. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable there and um yeah, which is perfect because you're sharing about not having allowed yourself to be vulnerable and then you're being vulnerable by sharing about it, right? Putting it right out
That's the
there. That's
practice.
awesome. And it's like it's but what you're sharing is not obviously not unique. It's like we all have this sort of I don't know, inferiority complex or like we're not enough, who we are is not enough. Or if we share about ourselves, then we're going to be boasting or we're going to be, trying to put ourselves up there bigger than other people, right?
Right.
Um, this was a huge lesson for me in a lot of different places, but in the book publishing company that, Keith and I started so many years ago, and new authors will come to us. And it was amazing to me how even the most, I don't remember, maybe if I shared this on your podcast, but every author that came to us, even the most successful, like the ones who were up there speaking and, you know, just doing amazing things, doctors, all different, and they all had that same complex when it came to writing a book. Like, what do I really have to share? Who wants to
Yeah.
hear my story? And is it really any different than anybody else's? And we were like, yes, it's different because it's you. And there
Yeah.
can
And
never be too many
somebody
stories.
will be able to relate to it. There's
Yes,
somebody out there.
exactly.
And I agree. I think that, and I should know these things, right? Or feel that way because I have interviewed so many people and seen and heard so many stories. I know the value that that gives. I know that that can impact and change the course of people's lives. I've had people call me and say, I was going to take my life. And this, when I listened, it saved my life. Thank you so much for doing the interview. And it's like you never know who you're going to make a difference for and who you're going to impact. And but not only that, but how it changes you as a person when you share your story, when you share your journey, because it is hard. What is it that public speaking is one of the biggest fears or the biggest fear that we have as humans? Going back to, well, why is that? It's because we killed each other because for saying something differently. If the rest of the pack or the community or the village didn't take kindly on what you were saying, they would just off you. So like it has this internal response to where that's life threatening. It's not anymore, not in many places of the world, but that's how we feel because it's just that internal dialogue that we have ingrained from generation after generation, right? And so it's it's part of that when we share ourselves and we share our stories. It's a similar feeling of that kind of fear. I'm exposing myself.
Mhm.
And if I expose myself, will I be accepted? Because if I'm not accepted into the clan, I can't survive on my own.
I think that's a big part of our collective healing process right now because what you're sharing is so relevant for so many people. And I'll speak for myself, I've gone through different levels in my spiritual development and in my physical, mental, emotional healing process. And this is all part of that. And the level I'm in now is just like, whoa. Like I thought what I did was big enough. And now it's like, nope, you got to go bigger. You got to put yourself out there more. You got to be even more just raw and real and vulnerable and tell the
Mm.
truth, you know. It's like, okay, here we go. Oh boy. How about you, Lisa?
The more we share our own stories, even though it may seem uncomfortable to begin with, everybody can relate. like we're all relating to each other. It's like, oh, I used to feel like that, or I still feel like that, or it's like we start to see ourselves in each other, and we start to realize we're not so different. We're not the black sheep, because I was the black sheep, you were the black sheep, you were the black sheep for
Yeah.
everybody. Right?
Yeah.
We
It's
all
so
felt
funny.
like that. And the more we share vulnerably, we start to recognize that we are in a safe space. That's one of the biggest things that we hear in our course. Like the participants, we get really raw and real, and we let people share
Yeah.
that which has been hidden inside. They've been carrying these backpacks full of rocks for so long, trying to hide it. And they're all hunched over and they don't know why. But then they start to share these stories. It's like, oh, wow, that feels better. And oh, wow, I didn't realize. And when they then feel that love and that connection and that acceptance, they realize, I can just let all of this stuff go. Like, I don't need to be ashamed of my past. I don't need to hide when I was feeling guilty or ashamed of myself, because everybody feels that. So
Yeah.
it's so powerful to share our stories.
It's very empowering. And I would say that when we when we have that weight lifted and we have that sense of freedom, I mean, the whole world is our oyster. I think identity is it's a big word, and it's a concept and idea of how we view ourselves and what roles we play in the world. Mother, father, brother, sister, doctor, lawyer, entrepreneur, whatever it is that you identify so strongly with. And when that is challenged or ripped away, we fall apart and we are like, I don't even know who I am. Everything that I thought I knew, everything that I thought I believed is now questionable. Who am I now? And I think that when we understand that and when we come to that point in our lives where we're like, wow, I I don't know who I am. And but when you reframe that and reshift that to who do I want to become now? Who do I want to create? What kind of people do I admire and aspire to be like?
Mhm.
What do I need to do to start having those attributes that I so admire? And um, I really believe that when we come to those points in our lives, the people around us shift dramatically as well. They start falling off. There's a lot of talk about that right now, right? The two worlds, the world shifting, rapid change. And we are starting to see that at a rapid pace, right? Where you all of a sudden don't see or hear of people that used to be more prominent in your life, in your world. Or you're starting to make those choices where you're like, this isn't really healthy, or we're not really aligned. Like, I'm thinking this way and I'm going this direction, and you're not. And so I think it's okay if I continue on this path. That's okay. And I think that when we give ourselves permission that that is okay to evolve and grow and let go of, that is where we're stepping into our power. That is where we're evolving and where humanity is evolving.
Yeah. When we start to make those choices, looking at what do I admire in people? Like, how would I like to be like that? When we start to embody those qualities that we love, that we admire, that we enjoy, we start to love and admire and enjoy being ourselves.
Yes.
And that's all what loving ourselves is all about. allowing ourselves to be the very best version of ourselves, the self that feels good to be me.
Yep.
Yep. Michael Beckwith drilled it into my head for years. That was my, before that, it was transformational seminars. I remember the first one I went to, I was just feeling like uncomfortable, and one of the not trainers, but one of the, helpers, one of the staff there, just said something to me, just reflected something to me about what I bring to the room and to other people just by my presence. And I could tell it was really authentic when she said it. So
Hmm.
I felt it and I really took it in, and but it surprised me. I didn't, you know what I mean? Like that hadn't been said to me before and it hadn't occurred to me before.
What
And
did
it
she say? You got to tell us.
I don't remember the exact words, but that was the gist of it, was that just by your presence, you bring so much to the room. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, they would put music on and people would, they'd dance people back into the room after a break. And I was always, just getting right into it. So, I mean, this was actually where I got the inkling to become a trainer myself and a transformational leader. This was like the first time that thought went in my head. But of course, it was like, well, the doubts and, well, what would it look like? And do I really, and get really getting in my head about like, well, I don't know if I want to do it. That, this won't work, right? All the things that won't work instead of, well, what would the path look like? And, it's been an interesting path for sure.
Mm.
But
I
yeah,
get
but
so
then,
much calm from you. I get like this a lot of calm feelings and presence from you. And
oh,
talking about dancing though, I love to dance. I think dancing is dancing okay, so if music is the bridge to the soul, then dancing is how we cross over.
I love that.
Yeah.
wow, I love it.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
bodies are meant for movement, aren't they?
Yeah, I got to dance the other night. We have a musician friend who came to town and we went out. It was a very small place, hardly anybody there, and I was just, I don't care. I don't care. I need to move, you know? And that's probably what it was. It was probably that I don't care. Not I don't care in a bad way, but I'm not going to worry about. And this was the, how, just like you talk about relationships, right? So the family I grew up in, it was like this. Well, make sure you don't act in a way that's going to make other people uncomfortable or put the spotlight on yourself or, act like you're egotistical or something, right? And yet I had this like really expressive being wanting to come out, you know? And so at a certain point, I was just like, I don't care, you know?
Yeah.
And it's still, all the programming is still there too, right? It's always going to be there and it's
Yeah.
always going to want to stop me. And I just, I get to decide in any moment. And when I decide to let it stop me, then I get to forgive myself later and not judge myself for it. You know, just judging myself is judging other people is judging myself, judging situations. It's like, I mean, relationships is like the richest. And I love that you keep bringing that up because it is the richest thing to work with. And when we allow ourselves to go there in our relationship with ourselves, in our relationship with our, higher power, whatever you want to call it, our relationships with our family members, other people in our lives, all, and with life circumstances, all of this is so rich. And the programming tells us, no, you're bad, you're wrong. Whatever you do, you're bad, you're wrong. They're bad, they're wrong. It's like, wait a minute. When you start to look at it, it doesn't make sense. It can't all be true at once. I mean, it is, but it isn't.
Yeah. And because you brought up the dance floor, I think that is one of the richest playgrounds you can experiment in and really see that people just follow. So I invite people to do this. Go try it out. I mean, if you really want to step out of your comfort zone, if you're not familiar with it, not used to it, go to a live band, just a local concert or local I don't know. I really love like dives because you get such genuine people that they're not like necessarily conscientious about how they look or feel. But so like there's not as much judgment, I feel, with my experience. But and so my husband and I love to go see rock bands and just local bands. But go to one and as they start playing, like give them the respect that the band deserves first off. Like they're there playing for you. They're giving you a show. So give that reciprocation of I love what you're doing and I love what you're playing. Thank you. And this is how, we're going to merge and show each other that we're creating this beautiful energy. And so dance, and I promise you, other people will start to come and dance too. But it's that following the leader and it's just knowing that we just like to follow what other people are doing. And it's fascinating because in nature, less intelligent creatures, which sometimes we can be that too, will literally follow each other off of a cliff to their death.
Hmm.
So, like, people follow. You can observe it really quick in traffic on the highway. Everybody bunches up. They're constantly on top of each other. But what's the smarter thing to do, right? It's giving yourself that safety bubble and creating a gap and leaving yourself an out.
Mm-mm.
And, I would love to contribute safety aspects in Avenue because that's heavily in my background to life in general. I mean, thinking of our world in safety is it prepares you, you know, for potentially saving your life. Often getting in a car is the most dangerous thing you do every day, but also, picking who you're surrounding yourself with, choosing where you live and where you're located. Like all of those things play a factor in how you show up in the world, how you respond, and your stress levels. And so I mean, that again goes into longevity, right? Like, how are we planning in advance, how to take care of ourselves? Because those are the things that we don't think about. It's not an immediate like, oh, my internally my body is so much healthier and my cells are thriving and but we don't see that. So we have to know about it, learn about it, and create it.
Mm-hmm. And
I
even
went
the
on a lot of different topics
I
just
love
there.
it. I love it. I heard you say something about, creating safety around
Mm,
us. And the word that's coming to me is sacred, like not just creating a safe space,
mm.
but really a sacred space with whatever we do in our lives, with our home, with the time in between things that we're doing when we are putting ourselves out there in ways that are like that really challenge our comfort level, then we can take the time in between. This is something I've definitely learned that I need. If I don't take time in between these things to just allow myself to balance my energy out, to clear, to I call it integration or whatever, meditation, just then it gets to be then I get to be someone I don't want to be.
Yeah, I mean, they're all acts of self-love.
Mhm. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, and really this is the path to self-healing, is to let go of all of those things that we were carrying that never belonged to us, that were distorting our fields, distorting our bodies. The body is never the problem. There's always something that's underneath that we're not seeing with the physical eyes. So really learning how to keep ourselves balanced, keep ourselves just organized energetically, keeping ourselves, um, like you say, keeping ourselves safe, meaning keeping our energy sacred and pure and not allowing the external world to get inside where it doesn't belong.
Yep.
So,
That's why we have our globe.
Mhm. Yeah. This is
Wow. This is
energetic
great conversation.
representation of our safe and sacred space. Our biofield is where everything happens. We've never been taught that we have this space around us and that we can clear it and balance it, and that it's everything is energy. We've all heard that, but we've never been taught what that actually means.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And protecting that energy field that we have is a big deal. Things come in and things go out. It's that exchange of information based on emotional response and learning how to regulate that as effectively as possible and knowing that things come in and when things come in, how do we manage that and how do we take out what doesn't serve us. And I learned that early on, not knowing all of those other, not knowing as much about the energy aspect and the fields and the frequencies that came on later on. But I experienced so much of that and learning how to protect myself in law enforcement because you're dealing with the worst of the worst. You're being spit at, you're being called names, you're experiencing people on literally the worst days of their life or the ending of their life. And it's a bombardment of negative emotions and frequencies continuously, bam, 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 hit after hit. And so you as a person are on these extreme highs, running lights and sirens, responding to emergency, going to these extreme lows where it's very boring, it's paperwork, it's going back to family that potentially doesn't understand. And in those career fields, it's really important to surround yourself with people or choose a partner that has an idea of what that life is like, what those experiences are a little bit. So, you are able to have a conversation with somebody where it doesn't bog them down and their energy. They know how to manage the information, or otherwise you're shutting down and you don't feel like you can talk to anyone and you're really harboring all of that in.
Yeah.
And some of the easy ways of being able to release energy, the way that I did it then, just intuitively, was no matter what, I took a shower after every single shift because
Mm,
that, like, water is one of those things that
yeah.
helps what's the best term, just balance out or bring your energy feel back to a more stabilized aspect. And breath work was a huge thing. I learned that early on from Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, who wrote On Combat. So my experience is very interesting, like I said in the beginning, because I have had this real serious, grounded, physical experience. And then I also have brought in the spiritual realm where it's all of those esoteric sort of mentalities that in the beginning I was not willing to accept. And because it was also a safety feature, like in the academy, we learned early on that people who called in things about you know, aliens or demonic beings or reptilians. Like when people called those in and police responded,
Mm,
they believed that so much that police would die because they would be shot when they, responded to the call because, so it was a sense of protection and the skepticism that I wouldn't allow into my being for a long time. And, eventually I was more open-minded and I have allowed and obviously I'm here, and I've created my own business and I show up in the world a completely different way. But that's also why I interview so many different people because if I can talk to somebody in the military or in law enforcement or a scientist or what have you, if I get an audience that's their world, right? That's what they love. If they're tuning into that, then they're going to start tuning into what does this person have to say when we're starting to talk spiritually and we're starting
Mm,
to talk energetically and frequencies. And now you have that in your ear. So now you have an understanding and awareness of, and it will in turn get you thinking and start responding differently.
I just had a thought of someone to connect you with for your podcast. She was on our podcast and she combines the military background and now with spiritual. And it
Yeah.
even from the beginning, she was always spiritual, but totally in that military environment. So it's a very
Yeah.
interesting combination. She's got
Well,
some cool
you
energy.
have to have an aspect of the spiritual dimensions when you're in those fields because when you see people die and you experience that, you sense it. I mean, the body is hollow. It's like a hollow, I don't even know how to explain it, but when there's no life, there's no life. But you sense that there's also something outside of that. I remember my first suicide clear as day, and it still haunts me, so to speak, because and I don't know if you want me to go into the story, but it's just I was very aware that she was still there.
Mhm.
She was still present with us, but she definitely wasn't in the body. The body was gone, but
Yeah.
she was certainly there. And so you just learn very quickly that there's more to this. I mean, and again, with all of the science and with everything, there's just no debunking any of that. So, uh,
Right?
like, but it's again going into that self-love piece, a lot of it, because how do we accept ourselves in full when we are so much more than this? You have to start understanding that, learning that, and growing with that alongside that, or you just won't. You'll remain stagnant.
Yeah. And it's time. We're here to support each other and remembering that. I think that's why we're doing what we're doing. I think that's why you're doing what you're doing with your podcast, and this is what we do. Thank you. Thank you for doing this, April.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh no, just this has been a beautiful conversation. I'm sure this is
Yeah.
going to help a lot of people.
Yep. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up and just let people know how they can find you and really enjoy more of what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on your platform. It's been a true honor. And I would love to share with the audience that the Driven Living community is open to all. And come on in and share your spiritual journeys and experiences. I would love to hear them. At Driven Living, we do so many things. We have created programs, books. We have the show where you get to see and listen to other people's incredible journeys, the Wellness Driven Life Show. YouTube is our biggest platform, and of course, we're on the podcast arena. So whatever is your choice, and just know that you're on this beautiful journey and it's your journey. It's nobody else's. And you get to experience the way you so choose to experience it. And so just remember that. You can visit drivenlivin.com and find all of our resources, access our community, etc. And I'm most prominent on LinkedIn. So if you connect with me there and send me a message and let me know how you found me, that you found me here on this show, I think that Lisa and Maura would be very thrilled to hear that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wow. What a beautiful way to close. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, it's just been so great connecting with you today, and I hope we get to connect again soon. I have a feeling we will.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Really.
And
Thank you to our audience today. And as you're watching this, just be sure to check the show notes, and all of the links will be in the show notes, so you can easily click and go find more from April. So thank you so much, April. It's been such a pleasure having you here today.
You are welcome. Thank you, ladies.
you're welcome.
Right.
And everybody, until next time, we wish you, as usual,
Happy
happy healing.
healing.
Bye.